Shock supervolcano eruption method latest. They're likely triggered externally when the roof above their magma chamber cracks or collapses, as opposed to magma building up from underneath, which we usually think would happen before the eruption occurs. Just like a regular volcano. That's our logic, isn't it? Well, the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign finds something different concerning supervolcanoes. They don't act like regular volcanoes. Supervolcanoes, massive eruptions with potential global consequences in the case of a supereruption of a supervolcano, appear not to follow the conventional volcano mechanics of internal pressure building until the volcano blows. Instead, a new study finds such massive magma chambers of the supervolcanoes might erupt when the roof above them cracks or collapses. And this is no surprise because this is exactly what USGS has told us concerning their findings in one of their Yellowstone Caldera chronicles. What they're afraid of is nearby earthquakes that could perhaps crack the roof of Yellowstone's magma chamber, which is only 3 miles under the surface. And we know that Yellowstone Caldera has a lake over it. The southeast corner of the caldera has the Yellowstone Lake, a massive lake, and they're afraid of even the waves creating small earthquakes. When it's windy on top and the waves are lapping over the lake, the surface of the lake, they could cause a vibration on the roof of the magma chamber, which is huge. Now, the caldera is about, 45 by 75 miles? Now, this new finding says the supervolcanoes, massive eruptions with potential, as we know, for global consequences, appear not to follow the conventional volcano mechanics of internal pressure building until the volcano blows, and instead, such massive magma chambers might erupt when the roof above them cracks or collapses. Knowledge of triggering mechanisms is crucial for monitoring supervolcano systems, and as we know, there's about 20, without counting Germany and some other supervolcanoes. There's 20 known supervolcanoes plus worldwide. Now, including ones that lie beneath Yellowstone National Park and Long Valley Caldera in California, according to the study led by Patricia Gregg, University of Illinois professor of geology, in collaboration with Professor Eric Grossfields of Pomona College and Professor Shan De Silva of Oregon State University. The study was published in the Journal of Volcanology and Geothermal Research. Gregg also presented the findings concerning what they told the annual meeting of the Geological Society of America. They said, if we want to monitor supervolcanoes to determine if one is progressing towards eruption, we need better understanding of what triggers a supereruption, Gregg said. Quote, it's very likely that supereruptions must be triggered by an external mechanism and not an internal mechanism, which makes them very different from the typical smaller volcanoes that we monitor, end quote. A supervolcano is classed as more than 500 cubic kilometers of erupted magma volume. For comparison, Gregg said, Mount St. Helens ejected about 1 cubic kilometer of material, so a supervolcano is more than 500 times bigger. A typical volcano, when it erupts, can have lasting impacts across the globe, Gregg said. A typical volcano. We've seen that in Iceland, when we've had large ash eruptions that have completely disrupted the air traffic across Europe, a supereruption takes that to the nth degree. The new study's findings are contrary to a pair of papers published in the journal Nature Geosciences that claim a link between eruption likelihood and the magma buoyancy. The magma buoyancy hypothesis suggests that magma may be less dense than the rock surrounding it and therefore could push up against the roof like an ice cube bobbing in the water, increasing the pressure within the chamber and triggering an eruption. Typically, when we think about how a volcanic eruption is triggered, we're taught that the pressure in the magma chamber increases until it causes an explosion and the volcano erupts. Greg said. This is the prevailing hypothesis for how eruptions are triggered. But at supervolcanic sites, however, we don't see a lot of evidence of pressurization. When I incorporated buoyancy into my numerical models, I could not reproduce the studies. Greg's numerical model incorporates all of the physics, converting mass, energy, and momentum to calculate what would happen if a large buoyant magma body were to form in the shallow crust. The model showed that even when the chamber was huge and the difference in density was very large between the magma and the surrounding rock, an unlikely scenario, of course, buoyancy added very little pressure to the system. Greg said, the fact that my numerical model was not agreeing with their analytical solution suggested that there was something missing from the analytical solution, so that prompted me to look closer. What they miss is the buoyancy model. In the buoyancy model is Newtonian physics. The magma may push up, but the roof pushes back down. The new study found that the size of the magma chamber is a much greater factor in generating supervolcanic eruptions. The size of the chamber. The buoyancy study suggests that this correlation was due to having more material pushing up, but the Illinois-led study found that the size of the chamber affected the stability of the rock containing the chamber. Greg said previous studies have found that as magma chambers expand, it pushes the roof up and forms faults. As these very large magma chambers grow, the roof above may become unstable, and it becomes easier to trigger an eruption through faulting or failure within the rock. So as it grows, as the magma chamber grows, it's the cracking of the roof that's very dangerous. Now, according to the model, if a crack or a fault in the roof penetrates the magma chamber, the magma uses the crack as a vent to shoot to the surface. This could trigger a chain reaction that unzips the whole supervolcano. Next, Greg's group hopes to take advantage of the advanced computing facilities available at the University of Illinois, such as Blue Water's supercomputer at the National Center for Supercomputing Applications. The researchers are working to create a 4D model that tracks the evolution of Long Valley Caldera supervolcano in California, the Long Valley magma chamber over time in greater detail. Greg said, if we see a correlation between magma chamber size and the ability to erupt, it's important to know if supervolcano eruptions are triggered by internal factors or by foundering and faulting in the roof. It may mean that we have to monitor these volcanoes differently. If the trigger is an external force, whether it be an earthquake or a fault, then we should look at seismicity. What types of faults are being developed? What is the stability of the roof? And what kinds of activities are happening on the surface that could cause faulting? This is from the National Science Foundation supporting this work, from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign by Patricia Gregg, Eric Grossfeld, Shanaka De Silva on Science Daily. So yeah, that's what's happening for Yellowstone and Long Valley Caldera, for example. Okay, the growing magma underneath could be inflating, and then that would cause a crack on the roof. And that would mean that it's a chain reaction that would be happening. So they have to have a different way of tracking this. Okay, that's a big difference from regular volcanoes. Anyway, I'll leave links below for you for this. Thank you. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.